Abby Rosmarin is a former commercial model. She's the author of 8 books. Her work has been featured in countless outlets. Her newest book is The Year of Dating Myself: How My Solo Journey Healed More Than Just My Heartbreak. Welcome to the show, Abby.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Tell us about your personal lives, more about your work, and what motivated you to write the newest book.
Sure thing. So I am a Boston bred kiddo, although these days I live more in the northern New England region. I have been all sorts of different jobs. I'd say the one constant I've ever had has been the world of writing because I have been everything from the usual retail slave, a preschool teacher, librarian, worked in publishing for a little bit. Now I'm in grad school for clinical psych um, and yeah, just I just apparently love exploring all the different corners of the world, especially in the world of the professional life. And yeah, when it comes to the year of dating myself, that was something that pretty early on in the year, I'd say by the end of January, I realized that I wanted to start writing about this and writing about it in real time. The first draft was almost like I wouldn't say it was a full-on journal or full-on diary because I had the intention of eventually whittling it down and having it become a published book. But especially in the very beginning, it was I'm writing about these dates, I'm writing about whatever thoughts are coming to my mind. And I just want to get this out on paper. And then after the year is done and after I've finished, writing this book, then we can edit it down and make it more, something that a publisher might actually like.
I appreciate that. So you're writing constantly. You are doing life and finding your way in the professional world, but frustration, or what was it that led you to taking a year off for, and I don't even know if that's the right term.
I'd say so. And it's for me, it was I basically had to hit rock bottom in my dating world. I had been repeating a lot of patterns, and also I've been repeating these patterns since I was a teenager. There was a brief pause for when I was married, and I'm always very quick to say that of all the relationship disasters I had, ironically enough, the marriage, that which usually people would think, oh, that's where things really went awry. That was great marriage. We just weren't compatible for each other. But all of these relationships that I kept getting into, especially after that marriage, just were increasingly bad, increasingly unhealthy. And then I got into a relationship that was outright emotionally and psychologically, and eventually became verbally abusive. And I got out of that relationship by the skin of my teeth. And I had this moment of, oh my God, how did I get here? And I really had to assess, my role in things, which is not to say that I deserved any kind of mistreatment. But if you're repeating these patterns over and over and over again, you got to see, okay, the only way I'm going to break this pattern is I see if I can see what I have done to be in this pattern. I need to break whatever things I am doing to get out of this. And at first it was like, well, I can't just swear off dating because I keep doing that. That was part of the pattern. I'd get out of something bad and I'd go, okay, that's it. Never going to date again. I'm single forever. Yeah, that would last a month if we were lucky. So I realized it couldn't just be that, but I didn't know what it was going to be. But I did have a moment of kismet, and I kid you not, this was New Year's Eve. If the universe was not giving me a more direct sign, this moment happened New Year's Eve. I get a promo email from one of my favorite bands. They're going to be in town in the coming year. But when I go to Ticketmaster, it's basically sold out. There's like one seat here and one seat there. And originally I was going to just call it a bust. Like, well, that's too bad, too sad. It's basically sold out. But all of a sudden, this little question kind of popped up in the back of my mind of, when have you ever been to a concert by yourself? Which the answer was no. I've never been to a concert by myself, and honestly, I'd never done anything by myself. And so here I was, like, nope, I'm buying one of those solo seats. I'm taking myself out to a concert, and that switched something for me. Like, okay, this is not just about swearing off dating. I need to be this has to be a proactive thing. I need to start taking myself out to things. I need to reinvest all of this energy that I would put in dating disaster after dating disaster, and I need to reinvest it in myself. And literally, as the year is winding down, we like hours left on the clock. I am writing up in my notes app all the things I was going to do for the year of dating myself.
And it sounds like things started to just flow out, and you probably be like, oh my gosh, look at all this cool stuff.
It really was. I realized like there was a lot of stuff that I had been wanting to do, a lot of things that I would hold back on because I would always just form fit for my partner. A great example is one of the things I had on the list is I wanted to go out and go to on a Ferris wheel because the person that I had previously dated hated Ferris wheels. Um,
Hmm.
Realizing like, okay, not just what are the usual dates that you do with somebody else, and now I'm going to do them with myself, but there were these all these activities that I've always wanted to do, but I would always kind of stifle because I was always form fitting to make the relationship work.
The reticence to go do things on your own. It's was that just is that I'll be is it I'll be embarrassed to do that? Is it I'm not safe on my own? It's I'll be bored. It's all these things. It's none of them.
I'd say there's a little bit of the embarrassment because that is a huge thing that I noticed when I was starting to do stuff on my own is this feeling of self-consciousness of like, oh my God, like people must be looking at me. Who's this weirdo just like standing around by herself? I think it was also I was a very codependent person. Like
Mhm.
I really just believed that, that societal messaging of like you are only as good as the partner you have if you can keep a man and so on and so forth. So everything was always through the lens of my partner, and I had no real concept of like self agency and self autonomy. And I'm sure, honestly, that safety element was definitely there. It's an unfortunate fact of society that, especially as a woman, there are just certain things that, we're a little bit more at risk for unless we have our safety in numbers.
No concept of self-agency or I don't want to say no concept. I don't remember exactly what you said. That's it's so fascinating to me. I spent a lot of time alone growing up, and so I've always been very comfortable being by myself. And it's not that I'm an extrovert or an introvert. I'm probably a combination like most of us. But it's always interesting when and I think that I'm more of an outlier because one of my favorite quotes is the majority of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room by ourselves. So I think that this is common, but maybe not talked about. But maybe I'm wrong.
Oh no, I completely agree. I feel, especially these days where we're in this age of constant bombardment and social media. And so even if you're technically alone in a room, you're never actually alone in that room. You are doom scrolling, you are texting, you are this, you are that. And I'm a very big believer, and of course, clinical psych major here, so clearly this is a world that I very much feel passionate about, where a lot of the stuff that is happening in this world is because people would rather lash out and externalize instead of taking that moment to go, all right, what's going on in this internal world? So I'm very much of that belief that if people could take a little bit more time and be that like that fearless self-discovery, if you will, and take that moment to see what's actually brimming below the surface, maybe just maybe we would see fewer people being motivated to do some pretty gnarly stuff.
Is that a self-defense thing where I don't want to open myself up to criticism or negativity, so I'm just going to deflect and project instead of looking inside?
I would say so. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, our brains are wired for survival, and our brain doesn't know the difference between emotional survival and physical survival. And so I think it is the same way that people will preemptively lash out. Like I'm trying to create a scenario in my head where, say it's this married couple and the wife, like deep down, she knows that she's sloppy, and I realize I'm borrowing one of my friend's stories, and I hope he's going to be okay knowing that I'm going to change the details enough. But well, is sloppy and doesn't, really clean up after herself. And he might just say something in passing about like, oh, hey, we need to make sure the dishes get done. And she freaks out and, oh, you're just telling me this and this and that, and really getting nasty. But it's a self-defense because deep down she feels shame for the fact that she's not able to clean up after herself, and he is doing the majority of the housework. But it's a self-defense. It is a, I'm going to project and lash out, which, from an evolutionary standpoint, makes a lot of sense. This is how I've kept myself safe. I will flip out instead of, if I introspect, the saber-toothed tiger is going to get me. I'd rather stab something with a stick. It just, yeah, in modern society, it trips us up.
Yeah, I think that that's really interesting how our brains can't necessarily suss out physical danger from emotional or psychological danger, but it's very real. And it's kept us alive and top of the food chain for as long as we've been around, but it's not necessarily helping us with the stuff that we're talking about and everything that you're working on and have gone through. I went through a journey when I was 35 years old. I'm 46, wanting to have more energy because around the midday I would get so tired. And I was like, why am I getting so tired? And I feel burned out. And it led me down this road to learning about limiting beliefs and learning about, for lack of a better term, my inner child and negative experiences and how those carry forward into our adult lives. And the reason I was looping and having the same experiences was just because of a lot of those. It was fascinating. So I didn't know. I just kind of stumbled into it. As you're learning about your inner child or looking at that, was that obvious, or how did you learn you need to sort of look back into your past to understand what's going on today?
For me, and this might just be kind of who I am as a person, I always have to hit a rock bottom. And I think about, this is even something I talk about a little bit in the book, where it wasn't until my father had passed away, which is will be 10 years actually in September, where I was really forced to kind of look back and realize, oh my God, the way that I was raised has had these ripple effects. And as long as I don't address this stuff, I am going to be repeating some really unhealthy patterns and unhealthy situations. And so for me, it was like I had no choice but to do that retrospective and and I'm a big fan of reparenting ourselves and tending to our inner child, because I feel like a lot of our wounds, there's a reason why so many adults act like toddlers. It boils down to they've got that wounded toddler that just never got the love and safety and care that they needed. And instead of tending to that wound within them, they just continue to act like a toddler.
Yeah. And while there is massive benefit to retaining the spirit of youth, not necessarily in the context of what we're talking about, because you're just acting like an insolent little brat who's throwing a tantrum, and that's not a beneficial thing.
I 100% agree. There's a world of difference between childlike and childish, and I will sing that till the cows come home. We want to hold on to that childlike joy, but we want to get over being childish as soon as we can.
I love everything about that. Childlike versus childish. Wow. Hmm. Yeah. So patterns and habits, and it's obviously it strikes me that it all links together. Our brains are doing what we've always done because it's keeping us alive, and that's what the brain wants us to do. So when we have these habits and patterns that we follow and everything's going okay, it doesn't appreciate that I want something that's not there. It just knows that I'm alive, so it's just going to keep repeating that. Hmm. Why does it take rock bottom, Abby?
I think it is,
Because
in some ways it reminds me of the Anais Nin quote, where it's like, and I'm probably going to butcher it because I'm trying to do it as off the top of my head, but and the day came where the pain to stay tightly closed in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Where our brain is very short-sighted and it loves path of least resistance. So it doesn't care if long term we're actually doing more damage than good. If it is the short-term path of least resistance, that's where it goes. And so if we can explain away something, it's just not bad enough. You know what I mean? That's again, the brain, it's this wonderful problem-solving machine that helped out our ancestors hundreds of thousands of years ago. Not so great problem solving today. And I think that that's the big thing is it just it has to get so bad that even that short-sighted part goes, oh, it's bad even in the moment now. Okay, now we'll do something about it.
I was going to ask if you feel like you fixed your problems, and then I stopped because that's a terrible way to say it, but there it is.
You know what? I'm here for it, and I love being able to be like there. Honestly, that is the short answer is no, but the longer answer is it is not unlike, you know, having a major accident happens that you have to go to physical therapy for and you have surgery for, where you're always probably going to be working at it. And actually, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of one of my favorite analogies that I will use. And it's going to seem really grim at first, but it's one of my favorite ones about how there's really no such thing as healed. Because so scurvy, the disease that we know for pirates to have,
Sure.
a, my apologies for the noise in the background, I guess. Uh, you know, vitamin C deficiency is a really big problem. And one of the areas where vitamin C deficiency can really throw us off is, or one of the really rough effects of vitamin C deficiency is we stop producing collagen. All of our scars are made out of collagen. So one of the really icky parts of scurvy is that all your scars will open as if they're brand new wounds.
Hmm.
So there's no such thing as healed. It is provisionally patched. But don't mind me. I apparently right now the leaf blower needed to go by my window, but
I actually can't even hear it, so it's okay.
perfect. I love that. Noise canceling.
Yeah.
Excellent. Um, but yeah, but as I see it, even though that's a really kind of gnarly fact that, wow, scurvy will cause us to literally all of our wounds will open up as if they had never been patched. It's a great analogy for our day to day. Like we can heal up. We can heal from our shits. Um, but it's always going to be a maintenance. And now you know, to continue this metaphor and really drive it into the ground, um, it doesn't take much to keep our vitamin C levels up. Like scurvy is, you know, like have an orange every once in a while and you're set. And I feel like it can be that same way when we've healed from our past, where it's like, yes, it's going to have to be an ongoing maintenance, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be a lot. It's just something we have to keep on top of.
Yeah. That's really well said. And the scurvy example illustration is a wonderful one. I mean, no such thing as healed. I think that that's what you said, and fundamentally, there's no such thing as being broken or hurt or injured either. It's just being human, I suppose.
Exactly. And if anything, I can keep adding in more analogies because this is the world I live in where cars have crumple zones and they've had them since the 90s. And you know, we've learned that if a car doesn't have a crumple zone, we become the crumple zone in an accident. So we see a car get into a nasty accident, it's all crumpled up, and we don't go, wow, that car was so defective. Look at how it crumpled up in that accident. No, the car did exactly what it was supposed to do in an extreme situation. And I feel like that's the same way with us and our pasts and our wounds and our traumas. It's like that there's nothing defective about us. Our brain did exactly what it was supposed to do in an extreme situation. These are just more metaphorical crumple zones.
Yeah. Well, that is wonderful as well. Lots of really, really good stuff, Abby. So, have you started dating again?
That I have actually, and I'm happy to say that I've been in a really loving, very healthy relationship, and I don't think I could have been in gotten into this relationship if I had not taken that time to be comfortable in my own company and build up myself as an individual person.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
I remember thinking about this kind of thing a couple years ago and thinking about how that movie or that line from Jerry Maguire, "If you complete me," is such awful advice. Because if
Yeah.
you're expecting some other human being to complete you, uh, I think you're in for a long, frustrating journey. I don't know what you think about that.
Oh, 100%. I hate that concept. Like, and don't don't get me wrong, like there's a beautiful thing about being in partnership and there can, that this person balances you out and, complements things and you can, grow and build together. But those should be two complete people for all intents and purposes, who are inviting the other one into those lives. And through those two complete people inviting each other in, you've built each other up and not, I am incomplete, give me things to fill up my, my gaps. I think that, and I say in some ways that's the very shorthanded way of the disaster that was the end of my marriage was that element of, no, I'm incomplete. You're supposed to give me things to fill in my gaps. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Yes, yes, it is, Abby. Well, I'm glad to hear it. So I hope everything works out exactly the way that you want it to.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they engage, or how can they engage with you? And where can they get their copy of The Year of Dating Myself? How my solo journey helped more than just my heartbreak.
Yes. So, first and foremost, The Year of Dating Myself is available where all books are sold. If you like going on Amazon, it's available on Amazon. If you're a Barnes and Noble girly, you can get it in Barnes and Noble. Yeah, basically, if there's a website you like to get your books from, you can get it there. The main places you can interact with me, my website, abbyrosmarin-author.com. That was my Boston accent trying to sneak in a little bit, and then I was trying to overcorrect. But yeah, Abby Rosmarin author.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Abby Rosmarin.
Excellent. I really want to hear the Boston accent, Abby, but that's okay.
When I grew up, Arthur, like King Arthur, and author, like the person who writes, were one and the same. And when I worked my way out of that accent, but I overcorrected, and now saying author is weird for me because I try to say Arthur, I try to overcorrect. But no, my Boston accent can still slip out. If I get revved up enough, I'm packing my can, have it yet, and ain't nobody stopping me on that one.
Yeah, I totally get it. I love it. Well, if you enjoyed as much as I did, show Abby your appreciation. Share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to abbyrosmarin-author.com. It's ABBYROSMARIN dot dash author.com. Pick up your copy of The Year of Dating Myself wherever you buy your books, and you can find her on Instagram as well. I'll link all those in the notes of the show. Thanks again, Abby.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.